The little girl came running across the parking lot so fast that she nearly fell. Her red dress was dusty. Her hair was tangled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she desperately tried to catch her breath. A group of bikers had been laughing beside their motorcycles when suddenly the child stopped in front of the biggest man among them. She looked up at him with terrified eyes and cried, "Please. They're beating my mama." The laughter disappeared instantly. The biker slowly stood. And when the little girl pointed toward the old building behind her, every man in the group followed her finger. What they saw made their blood run cold. But none of them could have imagined that the frightened little girl standing before them would soon change all of their lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe that kindness can come from the most unexpected people, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who believes that helping others still matters. The afternoon had started peacefully. A warm summer sun hung over the small roadside diner, turning the chrome of dozens of motorcycles into bright flashes of silver. The parking lot was crowded because a local motorcycle club had gathered for their annual charity ride. They looked intimidating. Black leather vests, heavy boots, tattoos, long beards, scarred faces, loud motorcycles. To most strangers, they looked like men you should avoid. But appearances could be deceiving. The group had spent years organizing food drives, collecting winter coats, helping veterans, and raising money for children who needed medical treatment. They weren't perfect men, but they believed strongly in one thing. If someone needed help, you didn't walk away. The largest man among them was Marcus Hale. Marcus was 6'3", broad-shouldered, heavily tattooed, and usually quiet. He had a reputation for being tough, but the people who actually knew him understood that he had an unusually gentle heart. That afternoon, Marcus was crouched beside his motorcycle, checking something near the front wheel, when he heard a strange sound. At first, he thought it was a bird. Then he realized it was crying. He looked up. A little girl was running toward them. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Marcus immediately stood. The girl ran straight past several motorcycles before stopping directly in front of him. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She was crying so hard that she could barely speak. Marcus lowered himself onto one knee. "Hey," he said softly. "Slow down. You're safe here." The girl stared at him. Then she grabbed the front of his vest with both hands. "Please help my mama." Marcus froze. Behind him, the other bikers stopped talking. The little girl's voice broke. "They're beating her." For several seconds, nobody moved. Marcus looked toward the road. "Who?" The girl pointed toward an abandoned-looking brick building behind the diner. "My mama is inside." One of the bikers, Ray, stepped closer. "Where's your father?" The girl shook her head. "I don't have a daddy." Her words were quiet. Too quiet. Marcus felt something tighten inside his chest. He looked down at the child's bare knees. They were scraped and covered with dirt. One of her shoes was half untied. "How did you get here?" "I ran." "From where?" The girl pointed again. "From there." Marcus followed her finger. The building stood behind a row of trees, partly hidden from the parking lot. It had once been a storage warehouse, but it had been closed for years. Marcus looked at his friends. Nobody needed to say anything. They understood. But Marcus didn't rush blindly into the building. He knew that if someone was being attacked, the first priority was getting the victim safe. The second was making sure they didn't create an even more dangerous situation. He turned to Ray. "Call 911. Ray immediately pulled out his phone. Another biker, Daniel, crouched beside the girl. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl hesitated. "Lily." "Lily, I'm Daniel. We're going to help your mama." Lily grabbed his wrist. "Please don't let them hurt her anymore." Daniel swallowed hard. "We won't." Marcus looked at the other bikers. "Stay with her." Then he and 2 others headed toward the warehouse. Lily suddenly shouted, "Wait." Marcus turned. She ran after him. He immediately stopped her. "You stay here." "No." Her face crumpled. "She'll be scared." Marcus crouched again. "Lily, listen to me. Your mama needs you to stay safe. That's the best thing you can do for her right now." Lily shook her head violently. "She told me to run." Marcus paused. "What?" "She told me to run when they started hitting her." The words hit him harder than anything else. Lily had been ordered to save herself. Her mother had known she might not survive whatever was happening inside that building. Marcus looked toward the warehouse again. His jaw tightened. "Stay with Daniel." He stood. Then he walked faster. The closer they got, the more they could hear. A man's angry voice echoed through the building. Then came a woman's scream. Marcus stopped. His friends stopped beside him. Nobody spoke. Another crash came from inside. Something heavy had been thrown against a wall. Marcus looked at his friends. Police are coming. One biker nodded. Then we wait. Marcus looked through the broken doorway. Another scream came from inside. No. They entered. The warehouse was dark and smelled of dust, oil, and old wood. Sunlight slipped through cracks in the roof, creating thin beams across the dirty floor. Marcus heard shouting somewhere deeper inside. He followed the sound. Then he saw them. A woman was on the floor near a stack of wooden crates. She had one hand over her face. Two men stood above her. One of them had grabbed her arm. Marcus stopped several feet away. Let her go. The men turned. For a moment, nobody moved. The larger attacker looked at Marcus and laughed. This isn't your business. Marcus stared at him. You're right. He glanced at the woman. But beating her is nobody's business either. The man stepped forward. You better get out of here. Marcus didn't move. His two friends positioned themselves behind him. Not aggressively. Just enough to make it clear that the situation had changed. The second attacker looked nervous. You guys need to leave. Marcus looked at the woman. Can you stand? She didn't answer. She was shaking. Marcus spoke again. Ma'am, we're here because your daughter came looking for help. The woman's eyes suddenly widened. Lily. She's safe. The woman's face collapsed with relief. Oh God. She tried to stand. The first attacker grabbed her again. That was the moment Marcus moved. He stepped between them. Don't touch her. The man's expression changed. You don't tell me what to do. Marcus stared at his hand. Then at the woman's frightened face. Then back at him. I just did. The warehouse became silent. The attacker swung. Marcus moved aside. The punch missed. Marcus didn't retaliate. Instead, he pushed the man's arm away and created distance. Don't do this. The man tried again. Marcus blocked him and forced him backward. His friends immediately moved toward the second attacker, preventing him from getting involved. But Marcus had one goal. Not revenge. Not punishment. Getting the woman out alive. Then they heard sirens. The attackers looked toward the doorway. The sound was getting closer. One of them panicked. Police. The second man ran toward the back exit. But one of the bikers blocked the path. Stay right there. The man stopped. Outside, Lily heard the sirens. She jumped up. Mama. Daniel caught her gently. Wait, Lily. But she's inside. She'll be coming out. A few seconds later, Marcus appeared in the doorway. Behind him was Lily's mother. The little girl broke free and ran. Mama. The woman dropped to her knees. Lily crashed into her arms. They held each other tightly. And suddenly the tough bikers who had spent the afternoon laughing and joking looked away. Some of them rubbed their eyes. Some stared at the ground. Because there are moments when even the hardest people don't know what to say. Marcus stood a few feet away. The police arrived moments later. The two attackers were taken into custody. But Marcus noticed something strange. Lily's mother wasn't looking at the police. She was staring at her daughter. Like she couldn't believe she was still alive. A paramedic examined her injuries. Nothing appeared life-threatening, but she was badly shaken. Marcus approached carefully. Ma'am. She looked up. Thank you. Marcus shook his head. Don't thank me. He looked at Lily. She found us. The mother began crying again. Then she whispered something that made Marcus's expression change completely. I knew they would come after us. Marcus frowned. Who? The woman looked toward the police cars. I wasn't supposed to be there. Marcus waited. What happened? She looked at Lily. Then back at him. I saw something. Marcus's face became serious. What did you see? The woman lowered her voice. Something I wasn't supposed to see. And suddenly Marcus understood. This wasn't simply a story about two men attacking a helpless woman. There was something much bigger behind it. Something that had terrified this mother enough to send her 7-year-old daughter running for strangers. Marcus glanced at the warehouse. Then at the police officers. Then at Lily. The little girl was still holding tightly to her mother's hand. Marcus had no idea what the woman had witnessed. But he knew one thing. Whatever had happened inside that warehouse wasn't over. Not even close. And the bikers had just stepped into a story that would soon put every one of them in danger.